Hello everyone, this is Caleb Simpson here from ZeldaDungeon.net, and you are watching our video walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. This is the 9th chapter of the walkthrough, which covers the 3rd dungeon of the game, the Great Bay Temple. In this first room, we are already able to get the first stray fairy. You'll see that there are 4 unlit torches here, which you can light with deku sticks or fire arrows. Once you have lit them all, a large chest will appear in the front of the turtle. There are several crates on either side of the turtle itself, which you can break to stock up on items. One thing that will be very helpful for the upcoming mini-boss is Deku Nuts, surprisingly. Just something to think about before you get much further in the dungeon, because if you want to go by and purchase some elsewhere outside the dungeon, now would be an excellent time to do that. Anyway, you can speak with the turtle anytime if you want, who informs you how to leave the temple. You simply hookshot onto his back to return to Zora Cape if you wish. When you're done messing around, go through the first door. As soon as you enter this big room, Tata will point out that there is a huge water wheel in the center. This comes into play later, so just log that away in your memory for now. Slap on the Zora mask, swim over to the far northeastern side of the room, where you'll see a giant yellow platform that is under the water. If you look at the pipes on either side, you'll see that one side is pulsing towards the giant switch, and it comes out on the other side not pulsing. So once you're done inspecting it, you want to land on the platform and push or pull the giant switch to let the water continue to flow through the yellow pipes, and it will make this water geyser activate, and we'll be able to use that here in a moment. So as you can tell, throughout this dungeon we will be activating these switches and allowing the water to continue flowing through various pipes that will activate various things throughout the dungeon. Swim back to the south and you'll see another stray fairy is underneath the starting platform. Pop the bubble and then touch the stray fairy to get the second one thus far. At this point, you can use the Great Fairy Mask to discover that there is one more stray fairy in this room. There are 2 platforms that go up and down next to the entrance, and the one on my right leads up to a small platform with a scutula. When defeated, it leaves behind the 3rd stray fairy. I recommend shooting it with an arrow from afar because it will probably hurt you if you jump onto the platform and try to hurt it in close combat. You want to collect the rupees that are on the platform and then wait for the stray fairy to reach you. Next, you want to jump over to the opposite side. The other platform leads onward, and you'll see that there are 2 scutulas up there, and they can easily be avoided though. You can simply run off to the left. And so if you go over to the left side, you'll see that water geyser with the yellow water pump that we activated earlier. You want to wait for it to get low so that you can reach it. So jump onto it, and then wait for it to rise so you can jump to the next platform. As you enter the large central room, Tata will point out the huge water wheel, which is pretty impressive. This plays a huge role in this dungeon later on, but just keep that in mind, it's connected to the previous room. You want to hop down onto the lower platform on your left and stand close to the edge. From here you can wear the Great Fairy's mask and shoot the jar in the center of the room at the very bottom. It's a little tricky to aim, but this is a lot easier than sinking down with the Zora mask and trying to use the double cutters to break the jar. Anyway, you want to climb up the ladder here and roll into the crate to reveal another stray fairy. So once you have snagged them both, the one that was in the jar at the bottom of the room and also the one that was in this crate, you should have 5 total at this point. Next, jump into the spinning water here and you'll quickly discover that it moves much faster than you do. You can't fight against the current, so you're going to have to swim in the same direction as it instead. There are 2 corridors that are facing in this direction, the lower red doorway and an upper red doorway. So take the higher of the 2, which leads to a narrow room with several skullfish. You can use the R button while swimming to electrocute them if they get too close, but then just swim up to the top and climb onto the lowest platform, which is to the far northern side of the room. From here you can turn around and you'll see a chest here, so you want to use the hookshot to latch onto it and get the dungeon map. This will be very helpful later on so we can track down which rooms we haven't been to yet. So there is a stray fairy that is within the jars on the nearby platform, but I am actually going to save that for later because we can get it easier later on. I'm going to return to this room anyway, so I will be getting it at a later time. Instead, you want to jump into the water and sink down to the bottom, and just watch out for the skullfish though, which will try to nibble on you. On the west side of this room under the water, there is a corridor that is guarded by Dexy hands. This new enemy is like random ligaments that apparently grow on walls. They'll try to grab you and toss you back if you touch them, but don't worry, they don't actually do any damage to you. These particular ones are just here to get in the way, so you can either charge up your fins to use the double cutters, or you can simply swim through them and hold down the R button to electrocute them as you're swimming past them. So that's pretty easy. In this next little area, you'll find another new enemy called Biodecubabas. If you've been following along with me, we actually encountered some of these in the last chapter. You want to Z-target them and use your fins to separate them from the lily pads, and at this point it starts wandering around and it will repeatedly lunge at you. So these things are somewhat awkward to fight without taking damage, so just make good use of your shield to avoid getting hit. You can also defeat them with just a few smacks, but it's a little bit dangerous. Alternatively, you can just stand below them, holding the R button and press B to electrocute them, and it will kill them in a single hit, which is kind of cool, because otherwise they take several. Once all these ones are taken care of, you can jump on top of the lily pads, and you'll see that there's another one on the upper platform that has one more. So you want to work your way over there and defeat this one too. Once all the Biodecubabas in this area have been killed, a large chest will appear that contains the 6th Stray Fairy. You want to go ahead and snag that and then enter the next door. In this next room, you want to work your way over to the chest on the opposite side. And here's a little trick for you. By taking on and off the Zora mask, you can charge up multiple double cutters at once and still be free to move around. Alternatively, you could just jump in the water and kill these guys by electrocuting them with the R button. But up ahead, there's a real bomb shoe, and you want to make sure you're above the water for this, because it will come after you if you get close, and it will just stay on the surface of the water, so you want to use your shield to deflect it. Alternatively, though, you could just shoot it with an arrow from afar. You want to hop up and open the chest to find the compass, which will help you find a lot of the sneakier stray fairies in this dungeon, as well as find some small keys. Speaking of which, there is one at the bottom of this room. So once you're done getting this, you want to go ahead and hop in the water and sink down to the bottom and kill all the enemies and open the chest to find a small key. Now these Decubabas are kind of cool. I just think it's interesting that Nintendo find a way to make, Decubabas a very simple enemy in the Zelda series that are seen all over the place. They're just kind of pathetic and easy to defeat. They figured out a way to actually make them clever and difficult. Although I believe I speak for everyone when I say they're kind of annoying. Every time you see them, you're like, oh no. If you wear the Great Fairy's mask at this point, you'll discover that there's a stray fairy somewhere in this room. It's inside a jar next to these 2 Dexy hands in the water, so you want to smack the jar first to release it, and then you can wear the Great Fairy's mask to reel it in if you want. But let's do something a little more adventurous, If you still have some of the Dexy hands around, you can wait until the stray fairy floats somewhat close to it, and then purposefully jump into the water so the Dexy hand grabs you. It doesn't actually do any damage this way, and it grabs the stray fairy without actually getting taken away by the current, so you can still stay in the room. That's kind of cool. But now that we have the stray fairy and small key and all, we're done with everything we need to do in this room. So hop into the flowing water and swim along to return to the central room. Follow the current and this time enter the lower red path. This leads to a large square room with some shell blades in the bottom, and also a new enemy called an Octorok, but I'll talk about that more in the next video. You want to find the red pipes, and then you want to work your way up to the top. You'll see that it leads to the surface. You can actually climb on top of it, so you want to do so, and follow it to find a real bomb shoe that is apparently terrified of me because it explodes on its own. I have no idea why it did that. I guess I just have that effect on people. Not really sure how it died, but that works for me. Anyway, I recommend using either the double cutters to get rid of it, or an arrow, or you can just bonk into it with your shield. After that, you want to continue along and enter the locked door. In this room, there is some green choo-choos as well as a new variety we haven't seen yet called yellow choo-choos, which have arrows. You want to stock up on both and slash the jars if you'd like some bombs. Then enter the door and join me for the next video where I will show you how to defeat the first mini-boss of the Great Bay Temple.